Happy Holy Hump Day on this July 21st, everyone. I'm Pastor Robert, and welcome to this midweek time where I can share some spiritual thoughts and reflections with you. I'm here at my house in the study where I spend each morning in prayer and scripture reading before I go to work. And so that's why you see me in this casual shirt right now. And it's my Church Toys to the Rescue t-shirt with our Athens First United Methodist Church logo on it. And so I'm casual today. I haven't even shaved yet. But I wanted to just share with you this topic about daily devotions. I just think it's such an important spiritual discipline. It's what we do in between Sunday morning worship services. We practice our faith by reading scripture and by praying, and that's really what daily devotions are. Reading scripture, meditating on scripture, and praying, and it's a form of spiritual exercise, actually. So here's my exercise bike that I also use. It's just outside of my study here in this little hallway. And so every day, I'm on the bike and just getting my own physical exercise, my cardio workout. And, we need the same thing in our spiritual lives. We need to tone up our spiritual muscles. And so I just want to share a little bit about why daily devotions are important. And so I wrote down a few things that I'll refer to here. Well, first of all, I want to share that it is biblical. So one of my favorite verses is Psalm 119, verse 164. And it's where the psalmist says, 7 times a day I praise you, 7 times a day. And I've always thought about that, the importance of, spending time, not just on Sundays, but each day in an intentional way, just to reflect on God's Word and let it soak into our lives and have a time of prayer. And so here are some reasons I think that it's so important to do this. And you don't have to do 7 times a day. More power to you if you do it 7 times a day. And we should be, praying throughout the day and meditating on Scripture throughout the day. And it doesn't really matter when you do it during the day. For some people it might be in the evening. For people like me, it's definitely early morning, like around 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m. is my favorite time to have my daily devotions. So I think the first reason why daily devotions are important, it's something that we do for God. It's like when we go to worship, we are going to worship God. And so in our daily devotions, we are entering into a relationship with God in a very intentional way. So we're doing this for God. We're praising God as part of our daily devotions. The second reason that I think it's important is that when we spend time in prayer and scripture reading, it helps us for the situations that we face throughout the day. And we might not know when we're doing the daily devotions how it might help us with situations, because sometimes things surprise us. But when we face those different challenges during the day or experiences that we go through, we can use this time that we have spent in devotions, daily devotions, to help us in that time and know that God is present and offering to us the guidance and the direction that we need. So the third thing that I think that it does for us is it builds up a reservoir of faith within us. So even though maybe during that day there won't be a direct connection with our daily devotions, what we maybe would have read in scripture that morning or that day, it might help us later on because it will remind us of a biblical story, and it just builds up this library in our memory banks that can then help us later on. So I think those are 3 important reasons why daily devotions are important. So let me just share some resources that are available if you want to find an intentional way to practice daily devotions. And I would say one of the things that we encourage people at our church is to use the sermon discussion questions from the previous Sunday worship. So for example, this past Sunday, here are the questions, and it's not all of these aren't all of the questions, but this is just a couple of them. And so sometimes I do spend time reflecting on those questions throughout the week, and because I don't want to forget what we focused on this previous Sunday. It keeps that worship service alive, so to speak. And they're also meant for small group use as well as personal use. And then another resource that many people have found very helpful, and I have found helpful in my own time in daily devotions, is using the Upper Room devotional. And that's based in the United Methodist Church. It's published through the United Methodist Church. And we have copies of the Upper Room in our Welcome Center on the literature rack. You can see it there, and you can just go ahead and take a copy. And if you want to make a donation to cover the cost of that, that's fine. But it offers a daily spiritual thought, and then it offers a scripture focus, and then it has a little story that someone has shared, someone from around the world. Oftentimes it's not just in the United States, it's somebody from another country, so you get that unique perspective. But it's just this little short story that is a reflection on that scripture. And then at the bottom of that small page, it gives us a prayer that we can say, and then a thought for the day, and then a prayer focus for the day. So the Upper Room is really helpful. The resource I use mostly is what's called the Daily Office, and it's based out of the Anglican Church, and it's also based out of the Episcopal Church of America. And it provides basically like this little mini worship bulletin for each day. And what I like about it is that it is in the season, or it's in the rhythm of what we're experiencing in the church cycle of liturgical seasons. So right now we're in the summer months. This is known as ordinary time. It's this time of steady growth. So the scriptures that are selected are really based on this season of the year. And so when we get into getting closer to Christmas, in the Advent season, there are Advent appropriate scriptures, and the prayers are also reflective of that season of the church year. So that's why I like that. And you can see here, I have some, you can see where this is an example of one that was used a couple weeks ago. It was actually Friday, July 9th, and it again matches up with the church season. And you can see there's an opening prayer of confession, which always is on Friday. I don't know why it wants you to do a prayer of confession only on Fridays. Certainly you can do a prayer of confession every day, and I want to do that, but it always has that same prayer of confession on Fridays. And then it, as you can see, it offers a psalm reading. In fact, it offers several psalms that you can read. I usually read one of the psalms that it suggests. And then it has an Old Testament reading, and then a New Testament reading, and a gospel reading. And usually they're connected thematically, not always. But then here's the beauty of this daily office. Then it moves into these scripted prayers. And these scripted prayers are based on various needs, like for homelessness, or for gun violence, or for the a variety of different issues, for social justice, for you name it. It will rotate these prayers, which I love, because in my mind I'm not always thinking about these issues, and this provides me with an intentional way of praying for various different needs that might not be coming to my attention on my own. So that's another reason I love this. And then you can see that it offers an opportunity for you to pray, offer personal prayers. So that's the spot where I always pray for my family members, and I name them each. I name family members that live throughout the country, and even our pets. I pray for our pets. And then I also pray for our church and our denomination, for our denominational leaders. I pray for our ministries at Athens First. I pray for all the people that are heading up those ministries. I also pray especially for the upcoming Sunday morning worship service, that we would all experience God's Holy Spirit as we gather together, that I would be empowered by the Holy Spirit to offer God's Word through the sharing of the sermon, and also through the leading of worship. And I pray for all of those who would be involved in that worship service. So there's just so many things, we can pray for in that spot. And then you'll see that it ends with a benediction, which is wonderful because it's a blessing as I begin my day. So I always receive a blessing, literally, from this daily office before I head off to go about my day. So that might be helpful to you, the daily office. And I use that online because it's easier that way for me. I just, you can Google daily office, and you'll probably easily be able to find a site that will provide that daily time, at daily bulletin that you can use and follow. So those are just some suggestions, and you might have some other suggestions. There's not just a handful of ways. There's many different ways that you can practice the spiritual discipline of daily devotions. So I just wanted to share with you how it was helpful for me recently. There was a day that the scripture reading from the daily office had the story of David and Goliath. And the story was where Goliath, confronted the Israelites and dared them to present someone that would take him on. And so everybody was frightened, and Goliath was this large opposing figure. And it didn't really offer the story of David. It only that's kind of a long story, so it was the next day that talked about David. But I, of course, know how that story concludes. But later in that day, I remember dealing with a delicate situation, and I was feeling some anxiety over it. And so I just remembered that story of David and how that must have caused anxiety with the people of Israel. But then just to knowing the end of that story, that God would be with the people of Israel by having David overcome that giant challenge. And so that just gave me a sense of peace as I was going through that delicate situation. So, it does make a difference, as we follow the discipline of daily devotions. I invite you to join us for worship this Sunday at 10:30 in the morning, both in person in our sanctuary and also live stream at 10:30 on our church's YouTube channel. The theme is going to be, do my prayers really make a difference? And it kind of ties in with what we're talking about here. If I'm going to spend some 15 to 30 minutes a day or whatever it is, spending time in prayer, does God really hear those prayers? And sometimes, we might have some doubts about that. And so I just want to explore that theme and reassure us that God does answer our prayers. We're going to look at Ephesians, where Paul writes about that he's praying for the people who are there in Ephesus, and he's reminding them that their prayers are really making a difference. So my prayer for you is that you will have a wonderful rest of your Holy Hump Day, and may all of us find a time to practice the spiritual discipline of daily devotions.